Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Fitness Education Series produced by the Australian Fitness Academy. It's like progressive overload for your brain. I'm your host, Tom Rock, and in today's episode we're going to talk about how to increase your mood, your cognitive performance and your physical performance all in 10 minutes. And this is based on a scientific paper that I found, a literature review. It's been done midway through last year, I think it came out. Really cool piece of, really cool study, I think, and it goes a great way to highlight these little interventions that we can implement for ourselves, we can implement for our clients, we can teach our clients about, all to help improve whether it's their state of mind, their relaxation, or, as this study will show, their performance as well, potentially. So it's really cool to see studies like this, I think, and these are studies that I like to find and share because they can be implemented really easily, and I think that's what I'll enjoy about talking you through this study and what it shows, because it gives such a good description and it's easily for the general population to implement it, or it's easy for coaches to implement it. There's a lot of studies I sort of was going through, having a look for something to talk about, a bit of a topic, and there's lots of interesting studies out there, but a lot of them aren't super applicable to general population or super applicable to everyday life, or they just really don't add a lot of knowledge. There was one study that I looked at that looked at the difference between the trap bar deadlift, conventional deadlift, and the sumo deadlift. And this study came out early this year, and it's basically summarized that if we wanted more quad dominant movement, trap bar is better, but the conventional deadlift or sumo is going to work more the hip extensors, which is that's the outcome of the study, but that's not something that we wouldn't have already understood based on the movement patterns. It's probably definitely been previously studied, but also if you understand biomechanics and joint actions and how the body works in terms of levers and creating force, anybody who understands that would be able to tell you that a trap bar deadlift is going to be more quad dominant compared to a conventional deadlift. So there's lots of studies out there, but there's some really cool ones, I think, that you can go, oh, it's a quick little study, lots of good information, and easily transferable to everyday life and everyday practice. So that's what I want to jump into today, and I think everybody listening to this can benefit from this this study. There's lots of cool stuff in it, but let's get stuck into it. So the study is called "The Acute Effects of Non-Sleep Deep Rest on Perceptual Responses, Physical and Cognitive Performance in Physically Active Participants." So basically, this study is looking at a relatively new concept called non-sleep deep rest. And it's basically a protocol, and we'll sort of go through a little bit of the study, but it's aimed at, or the idea became, or it's sort of, it's not focused on athletes, it's done with general population who are just recreationally physically active, whether they're going to the gym or playing recreational sport. But it's the idea of, it's sort of come off the back of, well, athletes, and I don't think it necessarily needs to relate to athletes because lots of people have suboptimal sleep durations or suboptimal sleep quality or stress levels, or they go through periods of time where they don't sleep as well. But these sort of interventions have been utilized with athletes, and previously working with athletes, I've utilized things like progressive muscle relaxation and things like that to assist in recovery and reduce stress and things like that. And this is another protocol that can be used similar to that, that has similar effects. But we see it implemented with athletes due to whether it's late night competitions, early morning trainings, multiple training sessions per day, frequent travel. All these sort of things play a part on stress and fatigue, which potentially impacts performance for athletes. But there's no saying that general population who have to go to work, who have to go to the gym, who are trying to stay fit, want to maximize performance, whether it's in the gym or whether it's in everyday life. They want to feel better, whether they want their mood to be better, they don't want to be stressed. These sort of little practical interventions that we can do are really, really useful. So basically, um, non-sleep deep rest is NSDR, which involves passively listening to a guided script inducing deep relaxation while maintaining consciousness, and includes deep breathing, focus, and visualization exercises. So this is, while it's sort of a relatively new term, and it's sort of the research on this is in its infancy, as it sort of states in this paper, it's similar, and it sort of pulls in a range of other techniques, I guess, that is similar to, like I mentioned, progressive muscle relaxation, which I've sort of worked on, or implemented before, breath work. So it utilizes breath work as a little bit as well, but it sort of has relations, I guess, to sort of yoga and meditation, which have been studies as well in terms of improving, reducing stress and improving cognitive function. I guess the idea behind this one is, it's probably slightly easy to implement, in terms of, uh, breath work can take a lot of like practice. Meditation might not suit everybody and is sort of a technique you have to learn. Similar to yoga, where it's a technique that you might not be good at or you might get better as you go. NSDR is designed to be a little bit easier, so less skill based, and a little bit easier to implement, as the example is used sort of within this paper. But um, the idea of this study is to investigate the impact of a short NSDR protocol, so non-sleep deep rest protocol, on cognitive and physical performance, as well as sleepiness, acute readiness, recovery, stress, and mood. So really cool study. I'll put a link to the description, in the description to the study, as well as the method they use, which I think is why this is really, really useful. Um, so basically what they did, they had a group of participants, and they put one in the control group and one in the NSDR group. So the participants in the experimental group practiced 10 minutes of an NSDR intervention. So lying on a mat in a quiet room with the lights turned off. They've put the link to the guided relaxation exercise in the article, and I'll put that link in the description of the podcast. So you can click, there'll be a link to the article, which you can have a read if you want. There'll also be a link to the NSDR protocol, and it's just a YouTube video, and it basically goes through the whole protocol. So there's a quick introduction, and then it'll step you through the protocol. So you can lie down, sit it up, you can do it lying or seating, and it will talk you through that 10-minute protocol. So that's why I like this study a lot, is because anybody can pull the paper. The link is there to the resource that they used and they actually got the participants to do, and you can implement the same thing. So you can just go download the resource and have a listen. I encourage you all to give it a shot, whether for your own benefit, to see what it's like, to see if you enjoy it. Lots of people enjoy different things. Some people might prefer yoga or meditation or breath work or progressive muscle relaxation. This is trying to do the similar thing, but slightly different protocol. So yeah, jump on, click that link, even if you're save it for later. Click the link, open the YouTube video, and give that a shot at some point. But what they did, so the NSDR group did the NSDR protocol for 10 minutes. The control group just sat there. They sat in a room for 10 minutes, supervised, and just basically sat there for 10 minutes with no relaxation techniques, no protocols. They just sat in a room. So what they did, they sort of did pre and post testing. So pre and post, they ran a number of tests. They did hand grip strength, counter movement jump, and then they ran a series of cognitive performance tests, which sort of focused on reaction time and accuracy, which I'll list them off in a second. And then they also did some questionnaires based on mood, sleepiness, recovery, all those sorts of things. So hand grip strength was the first one they did, or one of the tests for strength. Counter movement jump. The cognitive performance test they did was the PVTB, which is basically a test. It's basically a reaction time test. So they're sitting there in a laptop, they click a button, and every time the laptop or the screen lights up, they've got to click spacebar. So it's basically a reaction time test. They did another test called the Simon task, which is sort of a cognitive test where they've got to click left or right buttons based on what color a circle is when it pops up, and it's aimed to test cognitive function, and the results come out in sort of a mean reaction time and accuracy. Then they just did a couple of subjective measures, so questionnaires based on, there was one on sleepiness, there's the arms test that looks at readiness or how they feel. Then there's one on their emotional state, the SRSS test, and then the BRUMS, which is sort of a mood-related questionnaire. And you can have a look through the study through the link if you want, and have a look at it. And that tells you all a little bit about the test, and you can sort of go in further from there. What they sort of showed is that there was no significant difference in counter movement jump, but there was a significant increase in hand grip strength from the group that did the NSDR, whereas the control group didn't have a significant increase in hand grip strength. In the cognitive performance test, the PVTB test, the reaction time decreased. So the reaction time got better by 3.9% in the NSDR group, and it only decreased, non-significant decrease of 0.7% in the control group. So the NSDR group got a better time in that PVTB test with the improved reaction time. Similar thing with the Simon task test, better decrease for the NSDR group. So NSDR sort of showed better cognitive and accuracy function compared to just the people sitting in the room. In terms of the perceptual measures, like how they rated themselves, there was a significant improvement in the physical readiness values that the participants subjectively measured themselves, so through the questionnaire, whereas the control group wasn't significantly improved. Then we went to the SRSS test. In terms of overall recovery, the NSDR group had a 28% increase in overall recovery compared to a 17% increase in the control group. So both were significant, but a higher subjective improvement in recovery in the NSDR group. So across the board, the NSDR group had a lot of improvements in cognitive function and just their perceived recovery. We also saw in the BRUMS test that the NSDR group had reduced tension, and they also had a significant decrease in anger, confusion, depression, and fatigue. So across the board, the NSDR group, after 10 minutes, had significant differences or significant improvements in the hand grip strength test, as well as the cognitive performance. So that's accuracy and reaction time. And then they also had improvements in their overall mood as well, and their overall feeling of recovery. And that's only after a 10-minute intervention of basically lying down, listening to this guided. It's sort of incorporates breathing and visualization. But you just lie there with your eyes closed, listen to this video, and follow the prompts for 10 minutes, and it's going to help potentially have these significant improvements in performance, cognitive function, and overall mood. And I think it's a really cool study just to give people tools to help. There's obviously a lot of out there in terms of breath work and the benefits of meditation, and people enjoy yoga as well because of that meditation side of it. They get a lot of benefit from that as well, and that's well published, that research into the benefits of meditation and yoga in terms of stress release and things like that. But this one, I think this sort of protocol makes it very usable and easy. So it's easy for someone to go just say, oh, if you're stressed, just go meditate, just go do some breath work. But it can be more an effort to try work out, well, what do I actually do? How do I do that? How do I meditate? Am I doing it right? I have to go to a yoga class. I have to be sort of active and move and learn these yoga poses. whereas this is a simple it's simple audio track that you can listen to that's published in the study, and you can just go listen to it. 10 minutes, you lie there and listen to the tape. It's easy to implement, and I think that's what's really, really cool about it. But it also shows that it can have some significant results and improvements. So it might not be for everyone, but a really, really cool tool that does get used a lot in athlete populations, and in terms of recovery and elite sport. They'll use things like this all the time in terms of especially things like progressive muscle relaxation, breath work. All these sort of recovery modalities are done with athletes because they have the time, and they have the staff to implement it and monitor it. But definitely something that can be utilized by the general public at any point, whether it's performance based, whether it's stress reduction based. Really, really cool stuff that can improve. So yeah, definitely encourage you to click the link to the YouTube video, lie down. It'll take 10 minutes. Have a listen to it, see how you go. But something that can help. If you do have a crack at the protocol, send an email to tom@afa.com.au. Let me know what you thought, how you went. Will you implement it? It's something you could do once or twice. You could do it 2 or 3 times a week. You could do it daily if you wanted to. All these things. It depends how you want to use it, but it has been shown to improve performance. It could be before a competition. It could be anything. If you sort of have a stressful morning and you need a quick break, jump in your car, do some progressive, run the protocol, run the NSDR protocol, see how it makes you feel. There's lots of different applications for it, I think, outside of just the athlete performance. But really, really cool protocol, something to have a look into and utilize in day-to-day life for sure. So you and your clients can definitely benefit from something like this. But give it a shot and let me know how you go. If you've got any other topics or questions you'd like me to cover or answer, email tom@afa.com.au. Happy to cover anything you guys want to hear about. Other than that, guys, have a great weekend and I'll talk to you all soon.